Your power goes out, remember just how inconvenient your life can be. No lights, no refrigeration, no heating or cooling, no electronics. But with a Generac home standby generator, you'll have power when you need it. Our Generac generators automatically provide backup power after sensing a power outage, so your life goes on uninterrupted. Get a free 10-year warranty with the purchase of any air-cooled generator. Call Generac Generators today. Generac Generators. Life is primitive without power.
Streaming from the Tampa Bay 28 Weather Center in Studio A, this is Dennis Phillips Live. Brought to you by Generac Generators. Life is primitive without power.
How you doing, everybody? It's a Wednesday night edition of Dennis Phillips Live. Hope you're having a great day. So I know folks in Pinellas County are drying out a little bit after yesterday's 4, 5, 6, 7-inch rainfall across part of the area. I mean, is that not classic Florida or what? Some folks 7 inches of rain, some folks 7 drops of rain. Try forecasting that nonsense. It's ridiculous. But when we had an easterly wind like we've had the last couple of days, most of the rain will be pinned right along the coast. Today, that easterly wind, a little bit weaker, that allows the Gulf breeze to go in, and inland areas are picking up more rain. So we're going to show you that on radar in just a minute. Let's do some hellos if you're watching on the spot. As always, we appreciate you watching on television, but at the same time, to get the most from this experience, this is a multi-platform thing, which is why I've got my phone out with your comments so I can see your comments and questions. And tonight, hopefully you will have questions, because we are going to be talking with the folks from the Hillsborough County Emergency Management Division, and they're going to be talking about changes in the evacuation routes. Can you believe we're already talking about hurricane season and making changes, and why are there changes, and what are they, and how will they impact you? We're going to have all that coming up in a couple of minutes. But again, if you're watching on TV, you can kind of hang back and, just listen, or you can take part. You can ask questions, and you do that by going either on my Facebook page or on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on all the socials. So it's kind of the best of both worlds if you have questions for Katya, who will be here coming up in just a couple of minutes. Eliza, Northport, how you doing? Dominique, good to see you. So we have Anna Maria, as always, being critical, as she always is in one way, shape, or form. Whatever. We've got Candace. She's a Yankees fan. So that's kind of, that is free reign on her at any point in time. When she's rooting for the Yankees, I feel the desire and the urge to knock her down a peg or two, as the Rays did to the Yankees just a couple of weeks ago. I actually had never talked about that. I should have gotten into it. I digress. Karen in Homosassa, how you doing? Kurt, as always, good to see you. Plant City's in the house. Lynn, we're going to be talking about evacuation areas, not so much in Plant City, although I would think Plant City might be a spot where folks would evacuate to, because as we always say, it is hide from the wind, it is run from the water. And that is something I think after Helene, a lot of us really, really know. Tell you what, let's go ahead and jump right into the rain, because we do have a live look at radar. And as was the case yesterday, the storms are popping, but they're not popping in the same spot that they did yesterday. And again, we were saying about this over the last couple of days as that sea breeze gets going. So there's a live look at radar right now. And here's my concern with this. Look, we need the rain. This is good news, right? Anytime we have rain, it is a good thing. But what concerns us is all the lightning that's going on with this cluster. And this is in an area that has not seen a ton of rain. So when you look at the lightning strikes, you see there are 304 lightning strikes in the last 15 minutes in that zone. What can always happen is even though areas get rain, they also get lightning, which can touch off new brush fires. And that is always a concern this time of the year. I mean, a lot of folks don't realize that May and into early June historically is our biggest brush fire season of the year. So when you get this rain, this is great. And you look at the last 30 minutes, kind of put it in motion for you here. You see there's not a lot of movement. See how it's just riding along that Gulf breeze? So this will not make it back toward the coast. And the great news is it is going to dump at least a couple inches of rain in this area in the next hour. But there is lightning along with it, and that's always a concern, again, with fire dangers. But overall rainfall, man, look at these numbers. I mean, this is glorious. I mean, if you were caught in it, I get it. Maybe that wasn't what you were hoping for. But when you look at some of these rainfall totals in the last 24 hours, and honestly, this was in a 6-hour stretch. Look at these numbers, especially in southwestern Pasco County. I mean, we can kind of show you the area right there from Trinity over toward Lakewood Ranch, Odessa. I mean, these are solid 6 inches of rain fell yesterday evening. And from Newport Richey, right up around 6 inches, over toward the Landsbrook area, East Lake Woodlands. There's Odessa, Denise by her poolside getting drenched, 4 inches of rain. Then you go around Holiday, about 2 inches, down to East Lake Woodlands. The darker colors, about 1 to 2 inches of rain, and then lighter. But clearly the jackpot was in southwestern Pasco County, all right? But then you kind of see areas down across all of Pinellas, 1 to 2 to 3 inches of rain. The green color is about a half an inch or up to an inch. So this was wonderful, right? We had some solid rainfall totals yesterday. Temperatures right now anywhere from the 70s to the upper 80s. Cool shot. Holy cow. You know what? I'm going to take this banner off here because that is a great looking shot. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull this off of here. There it is. That is awesome. Look at that. Looking south from Rivergate Tower out on the river. And look at those clouds building down to the southwest. That, my friends, is summertime. Look at that towering Q. Us weather geeks, we just get all fired up when we see stuff like this. Beautiful shot there. If this were nighttime, you would be seeing lightning all over the place looking down in that direction. Anyway, as we were saying, Tampa right now, 85 degrees. The dew point back in the lower 70s. So you kind of got some of the ingredients for our afternoon. Another cool shot. I'm going to make this one go away too. Hold on, stand by. There it is. There's a look outside our studios, also looking down to the south. Those towering Qs building up and up. It's just another telltale sign that that summer season is right around the corner. Highs today hit 90. The normal is 89. The morning low dropped down to 73. There's your radar. There's your satellite. There are your storms right on cue. We talked about it yesterday. That Gulf breeze got going, and that's where most of the rain will fall inland, east of I-75. Thursday, we do it again. Same exact setup. Sunny in the morning, scattered afternoon and evening showers later on, and by the early evening, boom, it pops again. Takes us into the holiday weekend. So what kind of plans do you have over the holiday weekend? Well, my suggestion is anything after 4 o'clock, watch out for the storms because there will be some. And they will make it back toward the coast starting on Saturday and Sunday. Highs low to mid 90s through the weekend. And look at next week, toward the end of next week. More moisture comes in. I'm going to show you something in a minute. And I'm just showing it not as a forecast, but as something the Euro just simply will not back off on in about 10 to 14 days. It's been showing it now for a couple of days now. But there's the forecast through Memorial Day. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So my son graduates at the Trop on Saturday for his high school. I'm very excited about that. I will post more about that coming up. But Jake, the 5th of 6, will be graduating as he heads to UF coming up in the fall. There's Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. There will be rain, but it won't be in the morning. The mornings will be dry. The early afternoons will be dry as well. Ann says thunder in Plant City. Yeah, I think most of it's just kind of to your southwest, though, unfortunately, Ann. So there's a look at the boating forecast. Water temperature 81 degrees, southeast winds 5 to 10 knots. Man, if we could keep a southeast wind in our neck of the woods through the summer, we would not be talking drought. The problem last year is we had more of a southwest wind, and that blew all the rain inland and east. But if we can keep high pressure off of the southeastern coast of the U.S. and get us in that southeast wind, we will be loving the rainfall totals. Matter of fact, we may be getting too much of a good thing come fall and winter with this El Nino popping. That is going to have a big impact on our rain and our severe threat later this fall and into the winter. No, Adam, this is not the rainy season yet. It simply isn't, because you're talking upper level moisture coming in from the southeast. The rainy season, by definition, is when we just start getting these rains because of the heating of the Gulf and the natural progression of our summer months. This is an actual trackable feature that's giving us more rain to work with. But what's interesting about that is if we can continue to get this for 7 to 10 days, it kind of feeds on itself. The additional rain, the additional moisture kind of builds on itself on a daily basis, and then you're in June anyway. The bottom line, we are getting some really welcome rain totals, but only for about a third of the area. So 2/3 of the area is like, Dennis, you're giving me nothing. I got no rain out there. Come on, give me some rain. So I get it, and we are going to be seeing some changes. There's your 7-day. It kind of shows you what those changes are. Rain chances popping up higher into the Memorial Day weekend and even more so next week. However, I'm going to show you this briefly before we bring our guest in after this break. So if you feel like taking a look at some of the long-range models, and we do, you know, we're not hinging any kind of a forecast based on this, but if you look at the long-range Euro forecast, it is being a little bit bullish on potential development in the Caribbean as a weak area of low pressure. This is the Euro probability of a tropical depression over the next 2 weeks. Now, granted, it is extremely low, right? But how many times have you heard me say, in June, we can get those weak little tropical systems that can bring us some drought-busting rains? Not saying it's going to happen, but the Euro has been hinting strongly about this over the last week or so, coming up into the early part of June. It has happened before. It will happen again. So says Charlton Heston in the movie Armageddon, if you remember the beginning of that movie. And I love that movie. But regardless, something to think about. Something else to think about, the hurricane season and evacuation zones. No, this will not be something that will cause evacuations, but before you know it, we might be talking about it. And in 90 seconds, we're going to be bringing on our friends from the Hillsborough County Office of Emergency Management folks to talk about the upcoming hurricane season and the changes in our evacuation zones. That's in 90 seconds as DPL continues. Okay, we are in a break. Come on up, Katya. And I will grab the chair and I will hold it because this chair moves on its own.
Okay.
So you're going to be right here.
All right.
Okay, and you can just jump up.
I'm going to have to.
Got
That
it,
thing
yep.
is high.
I got you. It is high. All right.
All
There you
right,
go.
there we
Perfect.
go.
And I will scoot you this. Your close-up camera is right there on 2. Our 2 shot is here on 1.
Okay.
We are live streaming right now. And folks are... Austin wants a drought update. So that will be updated tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, right? Yeah,
Yes, it
Thursday.
is.
So on Thursday, we will be giving you a drought update. We are back in 45 seconds, so we are good. And let's go ahead and call up the Hillsborough County page right here, right? And then this was the other one. This is, I think, this is the interactive one.
Yes.
So why don't we start with this one?
Okay.
And we'll just talk a little bit, and then we'll kind of scroll through it and talk about fun stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, now, am I pronouncing it right? Katya?
Katya.
Katya, like
Yes.
not a ja.
Yeah.
Katya. Katya.
Katya.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. We're going to be talking to Katya from Hillsborough County Emergency Management.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. All right. We are back in 7 seconds. All right. And again, that's going to be your close-up camera.
Okay.
In 3, 2. How you doing, everybody? Welcome back to Dennis Phillips Live. Very excited to talk hurricanes. Well, maybe not excited to talk hurricane season, but Katya Miller from Office of Emergency Management folks in Hillsborough County. Thank you very much for coming into DPL.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. We were just talking, and Allie Blake, one of our meteorologists, posted something earlier today that Hillsborough County has updated their evacuation zones for this year compared to last year. So why is that something that needs to happen when it does happen? What changes?
Yeah, so we actually receive updated data from NOAA, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Agency, every 3 or 5 years. And that information provides us updated information when it comes to storm surge risk. And our geospatial department in Hillsborough County actually looks at this information every single year, right? Tampa loves to grow. We have a lot of new parcels all the time, right? And so we also have to make sure that these evacuation zones are covering that new development. But when we get this major data updates every 3 to 5 years, this is when we can see a bigger change in the evacuation zones.
So I'm curious, after Helene, you know, that I look at Helene as a new benchmark for this area because,
Absolutely.
you know, a lot of folks used to say, I remember the no-name storm back when we had surge back in the 90s, before you were even born, probably. but I was working here. And, you know, we had about a 6 or 7 foot surge. But with Helene, people's perception has changed now on surge. And I think, in a sense, that is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's easy to forget when we don't have something to compare it to, right? And seeing images on TV and pictures from other locations that get hit really just doesn't do it justice until you're seeing it for yourself or maybe experiencing it, unfortunately.
You know, Max Mayfield, who used to be the director of the National Hurricane Center, used to say that Floridians suffer from hurricane amnesia.
Yes.
And, you know, last year it was in everybody's mind, obviously, because it was so recent. But now it's been 2 years, and last year we had nothing. So you kind of worry that, you know, people might take it a little bit for granted. And what we're showing right now, this is your website. This is the site. And tell us a little bit about, first of all, how folks can get here and what we're looking at.
Yeah, so if you simply just Google Hillsborough County evacuation zones, this will more than likely be the top link that you find on your Google search, and it'll bring you to this page here. And this top link that we're seeing right now with this evacuation lookup is an interactive map that we have. And you can click on this and it will display a larger show process. Yeah. So if you just click right here, there you go. Yep, it's going to open up this interactive map here. So this does have our updated evacuation zones on there. If you're not familiar with evacuation zones, we have 5 of them, A through E. And on the top left right here, you'll see the find address or place. And so that is where you're going to be able to type in your specific address, or maybe it's a friend or a family member's, maybe it's your grandparents, right, that are maybe not so tech savvy. We want to help them out, and we can type in an address.
And we just put ours in. I actually just put mine in.
And look at that, you're in zone E. So if you're going to be in a zone, that's the best one to be in. That's the last one we would call.
Now, you know what's interesting, though? We were not in a zone before. So now we are in zone E, whereas before we weren't. Now, what would you say, is that because of the population increasing? Is it because of bigger threats for flooding from NOAA? I mean, why are these zones changed?
Yeah, so if we get a little scientific, the data is really coming from a model called SLOSH, if you're familiar with that, right? So SLOSH takes in a lot of different components into account when they're looking at this data. And SLOSH is always going to be, you know, worst case scenario, right? The perfect storm trajectory-wise, looking in, you know, your wind speed, how much of that water is being pushed inland, because that's what storm surge is, right? It's the ocean coming to your front door. And then it's looking at your elevation. It's looking at any type of maybe sea level rise that might have happened in that last time period with these updates. So all of that information is being compiled. And then, as I said earlier, our GIS department then overlays that with our parcel data, right? What is specific to Hillsborough County? And a lot of our surrounding counties do this as well. And they have to make sure that we don't have any weird spots where maybe a parcel is being cut in half by an evacuation zone, right?
Got it.
Another thing that we're going to look at is what the major thoroughfares are looking like. Are we being impacted by any type of ingress or egress problems, right? Are we going to be able to get to people, or are they going to be able to get out? And so that is something, unfortunately, that we have to consider. And so you'll see sometimes that we have to put folks in an evacuation zone because of that also, right? Not just storm surge impacts as well.
So it's interesting because, I mean, I think people, it confuses them because, like, well, if I wasn't in a flood zone before, why am I in one now? But as you mentioned, we get new numbers, we get new storms, we find out data from Helene, where maybe we have a better idea of what will surge in a certain area. And of course, we have so many more people now.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
that's one of the biggest things I would think in terms of preparation. So tell you what, we'll be back in 90 seconds, and I will dig in a little bit deeper and compare this year to last year, and we'll talk about where those changes have made as Dennis Phillips Live continues. As you see, we run everything here. There's the commercial breaks, there's that.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go back and actually show this again too, so I can kind of show people where they go. So I'll kind of walk them through it.
Okay.
So
if we go to this one
this
here,
one, all right.
and then when you scroll down, it's up because we scrolled. So keep going. So you're
right
gonna,
there. No,
you're gonna
this
hit
one, open.
the open.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, I'm gonna try it. Yeah, and then there's your area right there. Okay, so I'll go ahead and do that. All right, and okay, so we'll remind people again how they get here, and we'll kind of walk them through it because I think it's always helpful to actually show them.
Yeah, absolutely.
How much time we got? 44 seconds. All right, we're good. Oh, you're doing awesome.
Thank you.
You've done this a lot, yes?
Yeah, a little bit.
I was gonna say, you can kind of tell. Yeah, you can always tell the seasoned folks and and the folks who maybe are on the first timer. All right, so are these significant changes this year?
Yeah,
They
absolutely.
are? Okay.
Yep.
All right, well, that's actually what I want to.
And we can point some of those out too with
Okay.
the side-by-sides as well.
Right, I'm going to scroll down to that, right down there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we're back in.
So,
Hold on, back
I
in
got
this one.
15 seconds.
Okay, that's all right. I'm going to show people how to do it again first, which is right there, that one, right?
Nope, you're going to scroll down and then this link right here,
Got it.
the new window.
All right, we are back on Dennis Phillips Live. Thank you again very much, Katya, from Emergency Management in Hillsborough County. Let's go ahead and I want to show you guys as much as we can in the amount of time that we're still on TV. So if you want to know your zone, and Katya, you were saying the zones have changed pretty significantly in some spots this year. So what you thought might have been your zone might not be anymore. So here's what you do. You literally go in, and again, they Google.
Yeah,
I Googled actually Hillsborough County Evacuation Zones.
Yeah, just as simple as that, and it will be your top link on your search.
Comes
and
up,
it'll pop up here, find evacuation information.
And then you go down and you open up where it says Open Evacuation Zone, look up in a new window, and that will open up this. And then once you're here, right up here, I'm going to go ahead and circle it for you. Right here, you just put in your address.
Yes.
And it will come up with highlighted right where you live and show you exactly what zone you're in. It could not be any easier. I want to go back and talk about 2025 versus 2026 because, as you said, there are some changes, and I'm surprised to hear that there are some significant changes. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so what we are looking at right now, again, because of this new data, we are going to see some increased or growth or expansion of some of these zones. You also may see that maybe you went up in a zone. We also even have some locations that maybe went down in a zone because the data is getting more accurate, but majority of it is going to be a growth, right? And
so when you mean growth, if you were in a B, you would be in an A?
Yeah, potentially, right, in some locations. So we can see this a bit with this side-by-side here. So this is showing us more of that coastline going down into South County into Apollo Beach. So you can see definitely down here on the bottom, we had some zone Bs right here in 2025, and you can see majority of that is now all zone As, right? And this was one of the spots that we saw in 2024 that had some pretty significant flooding. If you're in more of the north part of the county, so this is kind of coming up on the bend. So this is town and country area, right?
Which
Dana
is notorious for flooding.
Yeah, we had a lot of flooding in 24 in Dana Shores as well. So you can see if you're comparing the 2025 and 26, the zone A has grown quite a bit. Some of that zone B actually looks a little bit skinnier. It's not as wide as we had in 25. And then you're going to even see some changes in the zone C into zone D, right? So these are some things to pay attention to. And if we scroll back up to the first side-by-side, that's going to be more of our north part of the county, Thanona-Sassa area. Big expansion into zone E, right? Lots of places that were never in a zone E before we're seeing are now in one. And there's some other spots to pay attention to for that. Also, what these side-by-sides aren't really zooming in on, but there are some changes along the riverine areas, right? Alafaya River, another one to really pay attention to. The rivers are not just about flooding, right? Not just about the rainfall and the rivers rising. That storm surge really pushes into those riverine areas as well. And so you're going to see some evacuation zone changes there too.
Okay, great. Got to hit one more break. Can you stay for our last segment?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Back in 90 seconds as Dennis Phillips Live continues. It's great information. It's really good stuff.
I'm glad.
Okay, so if we're still hot streaming. Lots of questions. I figured that. What we have 3 minutes left on TV. It flies. What do you think would be the best way to spend the last 3 minutes for what something that we have or have not covered yet? What do you think?
So there's a couple things. We can talk about difference between evac zones and flood zones. We can remind people about signing up for HCFL alert. That's always a really good one. Get best information.
Is there a site on that?
There is, yeah. If we scroll actually here on the side and we go to, yep, that's going to be our Spanish one, but we'll probably have a link into English. So let's see here. Right, scroll down, alert, right there, sign up. There we go, that's our page.
All right, we'll take that one. Let's take that one with a double box like this. Okay, and evacuations versus flood. I'm very familiar
preparing
with that.
now is really good, right? 2 more weeks, make your kits.
Yep.
all those good stuff.
Yeah, and and again after last year, because we had nothing, people are already like, I
know, the complacency sets in, right?
It does.
We don't want to do that.
It definitely does. All right, let's see what we got here. Anna says she's still in Zone D. I'm not. Yeah, my boss even said that, because if we're in a Zone E, I mean, how often do they really evacuate Zone Es?
Not often, and I hope it doesn't happen in my career, because that would be a bad day in Hillsborough County. That's a lot of water.
All right, we are back on Dennis Phillips Live. We're sitting here talking about, so where I am here right in this building, we are now in a Zone E. We were not in a zone before, and I was just asking Katya, I'm like, all right, does that happen very often? She's like, no, but if it does, we're looking at a real issue.
Yes.
And hopefully that would not, because I wondered about that. I mean, I know there are other TV stations in this market that are in Zone A, and they have had to evacuate, and they're off the air while a storm's coming, which is the last thing you want to do.
Yep.
So we only have a couple of minutes left. What you're looking at here is the HCFL alert, and this is a great thing that allows folks to get notifications that they need to know. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, so HCFL Alert is Hillsborough County's official mass notification system. This is an opt-in system, and this is going to be the best way for you and your family to receive updated information in a myriad of methods, right? You can get text messages, emails, phone calls, whatever you're comfortable with, and there's some additional information you can opt in as well if you're interested in road closures, other hazards, things of that nature. But most important, right, if we're in hurricane season, we got something coming up, HCFL Alert is going to be giving you the updated information of the county, right? Do we have any evacuation orders? Are we having to open up emergency shelters or any other services that we may have?
And speaking, we'll have a minute and a half left. Speaking of evacuation orders, there is a difference between an evacuation order or evacuation zone and a flood zone.
Yes.
Two very different things. And quickly elaborate on that.
Yeah, so evacuation zones, again, that's the storm surge, the ocean coming to your front door, right? And then with your flood zones, those are your FEMA flood zones. What does inland flooding look like? What is heavy torrential downpours looking like in your area? And, Hillsborough County, unfortunately, is just kind of a block of Swiss cheese. The water goes everywhere, right? So really important to know the difference between the two and know both of those for your home and your family.
Yeah, and if you think about it, usually a flood zone, quite often in our area, is more freshwater flooding. It's rainfall, right? And we had a lot of that with Milton, and we had a lot of that with Helene.
Yes.
But when you're talking about evacuations, usually evacuations are more surge related.
Yes.
And that is, obviously salt water, water coming in from the Gulf. And those are the ones where the zones have changed somewhat. So know your zone. We were just saying about this. Know your zone. Prepare now, because you do not want to be that person 24 hours out, run into Home Depot and Lowe's saying, I don't have all the stuff that I need. And we've all seen that chaos.
Yes.
So now's the time to be prepared. Hurricane season runs June 1st to the end of November. NOAA comes out with their predictions tomorrow. And my guess is they're going to probably be about 11 to 15 or 10 to 14 named storms, but it only takes one. So,
Yes.
Katya, thank you so much for coming to DPL. Appreciate it.
My
and we will
pleasure.
be back tomorrow night with a look at your holiday forecast as Dennis Phillips Live continues tomorrow. And we are out. Holy cow, that was quick. That
went
went fast. That really did. All right, so we are live on streaming. Let me make sure let me see if there's a few more questions. If you can hang just for a minute or two.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how often? Heather wants to know, how often do they evacuate Zone C? I mean, is that something like what? I guess the question would be, what kind of a storm do you think would be the kind of storm that would? I mean, A and B, we get it, but a C is kind of middle of the road, right? I mean, is that?
Yeah, so the C really, again, it depends on the level of storm surge we're receiving, right? So with a Zone A, we're looking at anything up to 11 feet of storm surge. When we start seeing predictions higher than that, that's where we're going to start moving up to those other zones, like the Zone Bs. Okay. Zone C is pretty extensive, right? And that link that we showed you does talk about the different heights and that it takes for those levels to be called, but it really is just the level of storm surge that we are anticipating. And again, very dependent on the trajectory of the storm, the direction. Yep. Helene, right, even though it was further off the coast, it had that parallel effect, and we saw that widespread storm surge all the way up the coast of Florida. With Milton, it was more perpendicular, coming straight ahead, and it's really going to impact where it hits with the storm surge. So those are all the things we pay attention to when we call those evacuation zones. And
a perfect example of the angle, and what you're saying is exactly right. So I have a friend that lives right by Molly Goodhead's in Ozona, and they're about maybe 100 to 150 yards from the Gulf. They got no water. And yet, if you go at a 45-degree angle about 4 or 5 blocks down the road, there was 8 feet of water. Yep. It just depends. And that's why it's so challenging in issuing evacuation orders.
It is.
Because there's all those little nooks and crannies. There's all, like you said, Swiss cheese is a great example. There's all these little areas that at whatever the angle comes in, because if you have, it's hard to explain visually without graphic here, but if you have an open water here or here and the wind's coming in that direction, it's going to go right in. But if it comes in that direction, it's not. So it really is a very difficult thing. And I would like to think that emergency management, and they err on the side of caution with this sort of thing. They have to.
We do. Yeah, we want to keep people safe. And, you know, with these evacuation zones, they're large, right? We can't just say, hey, we're only calling Zone A and this street to this street, right? That's not going to be clear information for the public. And so we are going to err on the side of caution. We want people to stay safe. We're going to be looking at, you know, when do we expect the wind speeds to arrive? Because that's that time that we want you guys to be where you need to be and be safe. So there's lots that goes into it. But again, we are working with the professionals. We're working with the National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center, of the information that we base those decisions off of. And, you know, if we continue to get lucky and the storm shifts, that's good for us. But don't allow that to make you complacent, right, with your decisions. Always err on the side of caution.
And that leads to what the Hurricane Center does. I've said this many times, and a lot of people I don't think realize this. When a storm surge forecast is issued by the NHC, the actual numerical value, what that number is, by definition, is the most reasonable worst case scenario. So when they give you a surge of 8 to 12 feet, that in their mind is the most reasonable worst case scenario, because they want you to know how bad it possibly could be. They might not even think it's going to be that bad. Matter of fact, you talked about the slosh models. Slosh models did amazingly well with Helene, and they were right from that 6 to 7.5 foot range. So people kept asking me, well, why are you saying 8 to 12 feet? The Hurricane Center is saying 8 to 12 feet because if that storm were to get closer, and they sometimes do.
They wobble.
We could have had a much higher surge. And that's my job to say, all right, well, this is what the NHC is saying, but the reality of it is this is what we think is happening. And that's why it's a really great relationship with what the NHC does, with what the local Mets and the Ruskin office does. Because let me tell you, I've worked with a lot of weather services across the country. The Mets at Ruskin are the best that I've ever worked with. They're really solid.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Well, again, thank you so much. Folks did ask about Pinellas County. You can do the same thing. Google Pinellas County evacuation zones. I'm sure it will show up, and we are going to talk about that in our Stormwatch special coming up next week as well. So, Katya, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Guys, have a great night. Tomorrow night, I can't remember. Oh, the Crooked Thumb is going to be here tomorrow. Rule number 7, our meet and greet is this Sunday at the Crooked Thumb in Safety Harbor. And the folks, Kip and the folks, Sherry and the folks from the Crooked Thumb, are going to be here live in studio to show you a little bit about what we got coming up over this holiday weekend. Have a great night, and we will see you on tomorrow night's edition of Dennis Phillips Live. See you guys.